and welcome to the 6th preview program for the GOG Guild video library. Since I took over as custodian of this collection a few years ago and converted them for digital viewing, I had always thought about making a preview program. I have already made 2 preview programs showcasing the library, but these are on the Guild YouTube channel rather than being exclusively for members. I was unaware of the existence of the previous 5 discs that used to be available, but only included up to program 108. John Castler allowed me to copy his discs at Kettering in 2023, so no longer constrained by the capacity of a DVD, here are the remaining programs from 109 to 122. Starting with program 109. And this in the library is an updated issue of Nelson County Peninsula Railway, which already featured in program 101. Program 110 is an updated feature on Wolsey with Barry Walls. This railway is also featured in programmes 5, 8 and 80, and I can remember a group visit here around 30 years ago. Once experienced, never forgotten. If you have never visited this railway, I hope this programme serves as an acceptable substitute.
Here's the reason for the delay. There's a train in the head shunt, which is a King's Cross Gateshead Class D. So we'll have to wait for that to go first before we can get the Lincoln in. That's as far as we can go with that train. The engine's going to now pick up water from the water crane, because normally they'd pick up on the troughs, but we don't have any troughs on the Great Eastern. Right, we've got the peg, so off we go to the goods yard. Right, that's the signal to let us into the goods yard. The route indicator says G for goods.
Programme 111 is a garden railway by Cruz. This programme was one of the 5 I selected for adaptation for YouTube, where it has proved to be very popular. The video was produced by John and also narrated by him.
The castle is a Tower Models unit, painted and lined by myself and fitted with a Digitrax sound unit. All the coaches are Western Wagon Works, with a few additions by myself. The prairie you see is a Lionheart model, recently acquired. And the articulated set is again by Western Wagon Works, with a few minor mods by myself. A nice little model, I must say, particularly the sound in it.
Programme 112 features a Gauge 1 live steam railway, although the video quality reflects its transfer from VHS tape. This railway also features in the very first library programme.
Take it over from me on the other?
I spent it at 5:15, that's all I only have to say.
Right, okay then.
Programme 113 is the Isle of Skylight Railway. This is modelled in the scale of half an inch to the foot on 32mm gauge track, and the railway features in Slideshow 37, which is available on request, and Video Library Programme 42.
Stop. Let me just... Right.
Programme 114 is an updated version of Programme number 5, Derailment at Tillbrook by John Castle. This version has additional sound effects and improved quality video.
Now we're watching the old D49 over the gates and away. That's it. Now we'll just pan back and watch the gates close. All nicely. Now while we was watching the D49 go over the gates, the old shunting engine had backed down off its siding onto the coal stage. It's now waiting for old George up in the box to pull his signal off, and he don't seem as if he's ready to do much at the minute. So we'll have a look at these fine sheep in the front. They look like good Suffolks to me. Oh well, perhaps they're not. Oh well, look, he's pulled his signal off, so we're away. Oh, there's quite a few nice looking sheep on here. Oh, somebody's got a old English sheepdog there, sort of a setter. And there's a shepherd. And our engine's off by it. Yeah, there we go. There's two or three in there too. Oh Christ, what the hell was that bloody noise? Oh dear, what's ever happened? I wonder what's happened to the whole thing. Oh good Lord, look, it's come off the blasted track. Huh. Wonder what the hell's happened there. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, I wonder what George is saying to that now. Well, I better have a look, see what George is doing. It looks like George has come out of his box. He's thrown his arms up in the air as much to say, oh good God, what we got to do. A couple of chaps down the bottom on the way towards it and wondering what's happened. Oh well, we'll go back and have a look. Yeah, it looks like Willers let off all the steam out of the thing so as it's not likely to blow up. And workmen are gathered round from all over the place, rushed to and having a look. And from what I can gather standing up here, it appears a point switchblade has come adrift and let the blasted thing down on the sleepers. Oh, I can see that they're talking about getting Craven Brothers crane out. Oh well, that'll be exciting when it gets here. Anyway, we'll...
Programme 115 is a programme associated with the Guild's Small Layouts publications and features 2 layouts by John Cox in detail, proving that you don't need a huge space to construct a convincing railway.
It might be useful just to have a look at the stock that's been running on the layout. These 2 are Roxy Mouldings white metal kits, one with a Drummond boiler and the other one with an Adams boiler. The E1 is an Albion Models etch brass kit of a Brighton E1 tank. Not strictly correct because the Terriers had all left the island to go back to the mainland way before the 1950s, but I couldn't resist this Vulcan white metal kit. Good stock consisted mainly of ex-Brighton covered vans and open wagons. Both of these are 10-ton versions. Coal was the principal traffic flowing from Medina Wharf right round the island, and again these were the long-lasting 10-ton Brighton open seas. Southern Railway 10-ton and 12-ton open wagons were brought over after the war to cope with the heavy sugar beet traffic. Then there was the Billington cattle wagons, not many of them, but they did last for a fair time, and the long-lasting ex-London South Western road vans were still on the island till quite late. Departmental stock consisted really of ex-Brighton single bolsters, machinery wagon, and the 20-ton dropside ballast wagon. Passenger stock consisted of the ex-Brighton push-pull driving coach and a London South Western bogie passenger brake. More up to date was a number of the four-wheel GUVs from the Southern Railway. And hidden at the end of the siding and not used for many, many years before it was finally scrapped was this ex-Brighton Stroudley horsebox. Also not really strictly of its time, because the Terriers had gone by the time I'm modelling this layout, and certainly the motor train unit had gone, but nevertheless it looks lovely, and Danny Pinnock's kit came up beautifully. The
Program 116 is a technical video by Sandy Harper. This program explains how to make split axles and how to arrange a pickup freeze chassis using electrical isolation.
The purpose of this job is to drill two small holes into the wheel, one in the back of the tyre and one in the brass centre hub. Now you want a small drill, somewhere between 0.7 and 1 mil, no bigger than that. And here's the one that we're going to drill, that I've already drilled in the tyre, and here's the one in the hub. You'll notice that the one on the tyre is as close to the plastic as I can get, and the one in the hub is again as closest to the plastic as I can get to leave room for the axle to go in here. Here is the wheel mounted in the vise so that I can drill down into the wheel, the tyre and the hub. That's the drilling operation complete for one wheel. You don't need to go very deep, just enough to hold a piece of very thin phosphor bronze wire, which will be soldered into both the holes and therefore connect the tyre to the hub. I next take a very small piece of phosphor bronze wire, very thin wire, cut a short length off and put a right angle in one end with a pair of pointed nose pliers. Place the end that you've turned over into one of the holes in the wheel, and then grip the other end where the hole is in the hub with your pliers, and then just bend the wire at right angles, making sure it's lined up with the previous right angle, giving you a tiny little almost door handle effect like that. With your wire snips, take off the surplus and Should then find that your little piece of wire will comfortably fit into the 2 holes in your wheel if you've got your dimensions correct, like so. Okay, now next job now is to a little bit of flux in either of the holes or both the holes, and then add a bit of solder. Careful with the iron, you don't want it too hot because obviously this plastic or glass reinforced plastic here will melt and that will destroy your wheel, so you have to be in and out quickly. And I find that my usual flux, which is this.
In program 117, Chris Simpson takes us on a tour of GuildX 2016 when it was at Telford. This was the occasion when Arakula visited the show from Australia, but the program features all the usual GuildX activities. For those of us familiar with the current arrangements at Ambergate, the subject of program 118, this video is a vivid reminder of what this location used to be like. The video also features an original slideshow from 1993.
And platform 3, which leads out towards Chesterfield. Okay. There was a vast amount of coal traffic, and this is the coal empties returning from London, passing through Derby for the Nottinghamshire coalfield. The wagons are mostly homemade, with local coal merchants and coal pits names on them. Express goods passes this, coming up from Manchester to Derby, pulled by 4F. That I made 54 years ago. The empties now passes over the Derwent and over the A6, and then at the Ambergate South Junction turns towards Sheffield, Chesterfield, under the lane and through Tillbrook Tunnel. And now it has passed Ambergate, the North Junction, and then passes on towards Sheffield. After that, the push-pull train leaves Ambergate and then the pickup goods comes down from Derby towards the South Junction. It also crosses the river Derwent and the A6, Ambergate South Junction box, and proceeds towards the Tillbrook Tunnel.
We now have two examples of instructional videos in programs 119 and 120, both made by Sandy Harper. In the first one, he builds a Dragon Models Cambrian 15-ton brake van, and in the second, demonstrates painting a locomotive with an airbrush, followed by lining using transfers.
Like so. Do the other side. There's that out. Now this is where it gets tricky, because I can't get all the way up here to these because of the angle that they're at. So I am going to have to go in from this side now and cut it out from here. So I shall go up the middle of this edge, and then I shall cut across again exactly the same as I did last time into the gap. So I've now got that out, and there's only two little tabs there, which if you bend down and careful with them, they'll eventually fracture and out comes the part you want. So I'm now going to take out the other bit, same thing again, into the middle, and in this case the tab is quite close to the edge here, so I'm going to take that out as well. I can go down the gap, no problem with these. I'll just take a little corner out which will help me. There we go. I can take out this bit, and I can take out this bit. And now, apart from one end here, that tab out, leaves me with one tab, again, gentle, and it fractures off nicely. So that's that one out. Now finally, I can get in to take the other sole bar out, and I shall cut through there to release the tab at that end, and that then leaves me with two tabs in the center, and again I'll just bend these and they will fracture. So that's a bit of scrap. That's one sole bar. That's another bit of scrap. The second sole bar needs a chop at this end to get this tab out. A couple of folds and that one pops out. Now these are the footboards, so I don't want these out yet, so I shall leave them where they are. Here's the floor. This is a bit of the side edge which I don't need, which I'll also take out, and a bit on the end again, just two little tabs there which fracture, and out they come. Right, so having got them out, my next job is now to dress up the edges. I've got the bits of the tabs left there, there and there, and I've got the bits of tabs along the top here and along the bottom. They've all got to be tidied up. So, and it's as good as it's ever going to be. When you're looking down, you might see a small, very, very tiny wrinkle, but when you look at it straight on, it's dead straight, no problem at all. So there we are. That's my process of how I do it. So what I shall now do is I shall now put in my next corner. To do that, I get my transfer corners, I get my sharp knife, and I cut out one of the corners, leaving plenty of space either side of the transfer. In this case, there is no overlap of transfer material. So when you take it off, all you get is the actual painted part of the transfer. So that's taken off now, and as you can see, there's plenty of gap around it. I always try and have a bit of extra on here that I can hang on to. So I'll now put it in the water. Now the water should be warm. This has probably gone a bit cold now because I've been at it an hour. So it's gone a bit cold, but it doesn't matter. It just takes a bit longer, that's all. So you put it in the water. There has been some changes with the Fox. They've produced an additional instruction sheet, which if I can get it out of the packet. There we go. There's the additional instruction sheet, and it says, owing to the modifying chemistry, we now recommend that you add a drop of washing up liquid to the warm water in addition to following the application instructions printed on the packaging folder. Okay. It says, please be aware that transfer release times can vary dramatically from seconds to minutes in some cases, and I found that out. The corners, they release from the backing paper fairly quickly, but the long straights seem to take longer. So there's even a difference between two transfers in the same packet. Thing is, don't rush it. Take your time. Put the music on or the radio or something, and sit and enjoy the experience of putting your transfers on. So, give it a little agitate to see how it's doing, and you can usually see just by gently touching the transfer whether it's moving or not. Yes, it is. Right. So it's starting to move on the backing paper. So I shall now take that out, shake off any surplus, bring it across to the model, like so. I'll zoom it in just to help you see, I think. There we go. Bring it across to the model, and you'll see that the transfer is now quite mobile on the backing paper. So I gently, with my cocktail stick, bring it off the backing paper. It will tend to do odd things like fold up and crease and all the rest of it, but just take your time, nice and slow. Try not to get it folding underneath itself. If it twists, then you're in trouble. It takes a lot of work getting it apart then, and sometimes it's easier just to...
Arguably, Program 121 is the most popular in the Guild video library. It features the late Raymond Wally demonstrating the use of a resistance soldering unit.
Outputs for a positive terminal and one input for a negative terminal. Although the combination of putting the plugs into there will produce different voltages from 1 to 4 volts. Anything up to 50 amps, so it throws out a lot of power. This is the foot pedal that goes on the floor, which operates the whole thing. If I press it now, we'll see a red light comes on, which indicates that power is available. And there's the foot pedal on-off switch on the floor under my workbench. Here are the other parts for the basic requirements to do resistance soldering. First of all, there's a steel bottom plate which the negative terminal, this one, will be bolted to with this brass terminal here through that hole, and that will then go to the RSU negative terminal. This is the positive terminal, the probe, to which will be fitted this carbon rod, which has had its base cleaned up specially so that it's nice and shiny, and keep that clean as well. The ends of the plugs also need to be kept clean, the idea being to have as clear a path as possible for the electricity to run from and to the RSU. The RSU is basically a huge transformer with various windings for tapping off, and we tap into them by using these plugs into the holes you saw in the unit originally. Now I'm going to bolt all this together and show you what it looks like when it's finished. Periodically it's a good idea to take it all apart, clean it, and make sure that this connection here is really solid and clean the whole plate. You can ignore the slit in my clean plate. That was for something I used to do when I made track using the X-Acto scale system. You don't need to do that. Pretty soon I'm going to have to replace this plate. It's getting old and worn, and when I do, I shall replace the screws with countersunk ones to make it easier to keep them clean. Keeping all this clean is critically important to getting good solder joints at the lowest possible energy rating. So, cleanliness of the base of the probe, cleanliness of there, cleanliness of the plugs, cleanliness of all the joints and the tightness of them, they should be really, really tight, and the cleanliness of the steel plate that you're working on. Now you can see I've assembled the probe. Everything is nice and clean. This joint
It's very, very tight. Difficult to almost get it undone. But that goes in there, making sure it's all clean, and that clamps in tight. So there's no chance of that being a loose joint and losing power. The whole point of a resistance soldering unit is that when this touches your unit, that becomes a resistance point because it's not securely fixed as this is. So it will generate heat. A great deal of it, and very quickly. Now you can see that I've fitted the negative probe to this bolt here. It's bolted securely to this brass plate, to which this wire is very heavily soldered, and all that is clean, so that joint is as tight as it can be and therefore electrically sound.
Finally, we come to program 122 in the library, and this is John Hobden building an Ace Products Midland and Great Northern J93 060 tank. The video goes a considerable way towards demonstrating that it is not necessary to have a workshop full of specialist tools to assemble a brass kit.
And I'm going to use it to gently press everything over. And there we are, the first fold basically made. I need to check that it's actually square, but it looks as if it's gone quite nicely. I think a little bit of extra work with the thumb is going to be needed. And now we're ready to do the other side. Now I've just folded up the buffer beam, and on this side it's a little bit of a tight fit. So at the other end I'm going to relieve it a little bit, just with a needle file. I'm going to take a little piece off here and a little piece off here. It should meet rather better than the other end did. There we go. Yes, that's going to be a neat joint by the time we've soldered it. Now, with the lower foot plate all folded up and the upper foot plate, which all looks rather neatly etched, we now come to one of the perennial problems with Ace kits. There are some slots, and hopefully the slots on the upper foot plate will match up with those on the lower foot plate. I'm just putting them together, and hey presto, everything matches up. It's feeling like a really nice tight fit, so I'm inclined to go straight for it and get these two soldered together. So we have the foot plates upper and lower nicely matched. Even the half etched part in the middle seems to match, which I'm quite impressed with. We're now just going to solder them together. I've brushed some flux on, liquid flux rather than paste flux, and I'm just bringing the solder along and starting to make the joint. I'm just going to use a pair of pliers to hold things down. I've got quite enough temperature here. I'm just going to turn the soldering station up a little bit. In situations like this, the solder should just flow. I think this job might have been one for the bigger soldering iron. I think this soldering station is about 30 watts, but I have a 60 watt iron and nothing argues with that. Here's the big iron plugged in. I've taken a file to the tip. I like to keep the tip at a little bit sharper than a right angle, so you can get into any corners if necessary, but obviously it's not going to go into really tight corners. It's a big old-fashioned copper bit. I think this is a...
Well, that is that. But before I go, I must point out that there are a number of additional videos in the Guild library. I stopped at number 122 as that was originally the highest numbered video program, and numbers higher than this are actually conversions of slideshow programs. If you fancy viewing any of these programs that aren't available yet, contact me and let me know what you would like, and I can make them available for you, time permitting. Thank you for watching, and don't forget the GOG Guild YouTube channel. Almost 500 additional videos on a variety of subjects.